All right, so here's the profit planner. So what I'm going to do is just show you a few of the functionalities within it. And like I said, this will help pretty much any business allow the owner to work less and earn more. So what we put in here is the date range, and this is a test account, so not all the data is in here, but basically it'll show you what all your sales were. Up here, because you're putting in your business and personal expenses, it'll let you know for that time period how much that you actually needed to sell, which in this case was about $50,000. And then in here you'll see the profit is only 20,000, so we're like halfway there. It'll also show you the profit percent, average hours, all that kind of stuff. It will also show you for the installations, if I put them in there, all that information as well. Okay. And then it breaks down the personal hours, because the point of this program is, again, to help business owners work less and earn more. And the only way we can figure out how to work less is if we're actually tracking our time for each area. So this is just the averages, and I'll tell you, for the phone calls and emails and on-site estimates and everything else, these are the average number of minutes that you're working for an aluminum installation, and then as far as for a vinyl installation. So you can start seeing patterns where you might be able to make, adjustments. Okay. Then the bottom down here is what would actually happen if you only did aluminum fence installations or you only did vinyl fence, installations. And this is for me because, we're a fence company. But it'll show you that, you had to do a little less than 5 jobs for aluminum, but about 5.5 jobs for vinyl. And then this is how it helps you start working less hours is, if you focus on only doing aluminum, you're going to do 65 hours, but for vinyl, you're doing 75. So it would make more sense to do aluminum, or at least start doing more aluminum so you can start working less hours. Okay. Now, the next part is the future planner. This is what really sets everything apart. And this is what's going to allow you to see what's going to happen before you make any changes. So that way you're more likely to make changes. Because what I found is most contractors, you're kind of like putting everything in a ball and duct taping it together to hold it, together. And you're not willing to make any adjustments. Oops, forgot to do. So the first one is the profit adjuster. Okay, again, everything goes by the date range and the type of job that you select. So on average, our jobs costing about 7,000. Here's our profit per job. Here's the profit percent, all that kind of stuff. So now we're going to see what happens if we start charging more. Because at this point, we're only at 31.5%, which is not that much. So let's get that number closer to just say 38. And what you'll see here is we're basically going to be charging an extra $400. So we're going from 7,055 to about 7,500. So it's really not that big of a swing. And I actually have videos that show you how to go from 7,000 to 75 and even higher without losing any jobs that are on the YouTube channel. But anyway, what I'll show you what'll happen is if you want to work less hours, okay, that's this section here. And then if you want to make more money, that section's here. Okay. So if you wanted to work less hours, just by charging that $400 more, you go from needing about 5 jobs a week to about 4.5. So you're saving yourself almost a job, and you have to do 41 less jobs a year based upon, my numbers here and my expenses, all that kind of stuff. Now for the current hours, right now we're working 69.5. Because we raised our prices, we would go to 58, about 59. So we're saving about 10 or 11 hours a week and about 550, 560 hours a year, which is huge. Okay. Again, this is how you start making changes so you can start working less. Now, if you want to work the same amount but just charge more, well, what's going to happen is you would end up making an extra $1,800 a week or $9,400 a year. For the weekly hour adjuster, so currently this gives you all the averages again. So right now we're working 69.5 hours. Let's pretend that you're going to change nothing else. You're not going to raise your prices, nothing like that. Your expenses are all staying the same, and you just want to work 80 hours a week to see how much more money you could make. We put in 80, and now it'll show you that you're going to make roughly about $1,800 more and about $92,000 a year just by working an extra 11 hours a week. Now, if you know me, my goal is to get down to like nothing. So, you can do it the opposite way as well. And this is actually helpful for the, the owners that are already making more than enough, but they wanted to see what would happen if they would work less. So let's do 69.5. Let's go down to 50. So what that means, if we only work 50 hours a week and change nothing else, we're, making about $3,300 a week less, or about $170,000 a year less. Now, for some business owners, if you're making more than enough, like this is the way to do it. The next thing is the job hour adjuster. This one is great for the owners that are doing everything themselves. So again, everything's based upon the date range and the type of jobs. You can single it out and just pick one type of job if you want. But here you'll see the averages of all the time, and this is all your personal time per job, okay? And over here is where you make the adjustments. Now, there's two schools of thought. You can hire someone to work in the office to answer the phone calls and emails and stuff like that, or you can hire someone to actually do the installations. So this shows you which is more beneficial. And you can see right here that the bulk of our time is spent with the installation. So if we clear this out and we hire someone, what this will do, and I'll show you over here what's going to happen. It's going to cost you $250. Now, this is based upon what I put in for the, how much I'm paying my employees, which I think all this is set for $20 an hour. And what you'll see here, over here, you can change the rates, so you can adjust it to whatever you want. But anyway, because we took that out, it's costing us $250. Before we need a little over 5 jobs. Now we need like 5 3/4. So in my case, I would need an extra 33 jobs a year, which really is not that much when we're doing over 300. And what you'll see here is we went from 69.5 hours a week to 27. You're saving yourself 42 hours a week just by hiring someone else. So this is where it's super important to see what's going to actually happen. So you can actually start making changes. And maybe you do little by little. Maybe you don't hire someone completely. Maybe, instead of doing, 529 minutes, maybe you're only there for like 200 minutes. Okay. So you'll see here, same thing. We go from 69.5 to 44. We're still saving 25 hours just by eliminating or, starting cutting back on the installation. So you can just play with this and I'll show you what, can happen. The next thing we're going to look at is the expense adjuster. So to your left, you're going to see all the things broken down. Now, again, this is a test account and we're not spending $400,000 a year on office supplies, but this will just give you a general idea. Now we can pretend that for the vehicle payments that, instead of, right now we have 2 listed here. Let's say we wanted to do a total of 3. So we'll add another 4,200. So you'll see here where additional cost is 4,200. And for the jobs, you can see what it's going to do. Like you only need an additional 2 jobs a year to pay for that extra money. For the extra vehicle. And then basically if you change nothing else, no price increases, nothing else, you basically have to work an extra half an hour a week or 28 hours a year, which is not that bad. So you can play with this and change it to whatever you want. This is helpful if you were looking to get a warehouse. Just pretend the warehouse is an extra $2,000 a month. So we changed this to 48,000. And you'll see here that we need 12.5 jobs. We have to work an extra 3 hours a week to make that happen. Okay, the advertising adjuster. This one's cool too. So what you're going to do, if you know what it costs you on average for a lead. So most companies, you might be paying about $35, per lead. Okay. And this is where you put the number of leads that you need to make a job. So if you, book 1 job for every 10 phone calls you get, then you would just put 10 here. So what this will show, again, based upon the date range and everything else, that the average value per job, which is the profit, is about $2,300. So now if we spend $350, because 35 times 10, then we're making $19.16 per job, okay? Now, with that information, we're gonna put in what our monthly ad budget is. So right now, if you're not spending any money on ads, and you change that to $1,000 a month, what you're going to see is and this is additional profit, okay? This is after you pay for your ads. You're gonna make an extra $5,500 a month or $65,000 a year. And if you're like me, once you see these numbers, you just start increasing little by little. Maybe you go from 1,000 to 1,500. You'll see you add an extra 100 grand. If you're like me, then you start really bumping up. Maybe it's 2,500, and then you see this number. And then once you get comfortable with that number, you start seeing results. Then you up it even more. And this is what I've personally done to really increase the amount of jobs that we do, is just by spending more money on advertising. Because I realized that if I'm paying $350 for a job, I'm still coming out way ahead, especially since I pay someone else to actually install a job for me. Okay. And the last one, the job type adjuster. So this one's cool. So what this will help you do is, again, by the date range, it will tell you that on average, 55% of your jobs were from the aluminum and 44% of your jobs were for vinyl. Now, if you change these numbers, let's say you'll see here that we saw, we're making $2,400 more in profit on average per job, and we're only working 13.5 hours and instead of this. So it's slightly less. It's not much. But what you'll see is if we change this to, like, just say we do 70% for this and 30%, what you'll see is that the current jobs per week goes from 5.15 to 5.05, which is really not that much. So I'm saving 5 jobs a year just by doing a little bit of that. And then I'm saving about, an hour a week and about 70 hours a year. Now, you would see greater swings, and again, this is just a test account, because normally what you're going to see is there's going to be a handful of services that are really profitable for you, but then there's other ones that are complete dogs. But because you don't really know that, what'll end up happening is you're going to do more of those jobs that just aren't worth your time. And that's what we were doing in the beginning. We were doing all this custom work. We were doing this stuff where we just weren't good at it. And what we found is once we started eliminating most of what we did and only picked a few core services, our lives not only became easier, but we were able to produce more jobs and we were able to make more profit because we were good at what we did. It wasn't fumbling around all day. So this will help you, again, because most people aren't going to say, oh, if your main business is painting and or you do painting, you do siding, you do roofing, like you do everything, and painting is the bulk of your business, but painting doesn't really do it, fill up your bottom line, and it causes a lot of issues where you're working a ton of hours. What you could start doing is, if it's 70%, well, get it down to 60, and then get it down to 50 and 40 and so forth and so on. So again, this is going to be completely free for the first 10 people, because I want to get people in there to start trying it to see what you like, what you don't like. Basically, I can program this thing to do anything. We're working on it where we're actually going to be adding in scheduling functions, and then as well as for inventory and everything else. And then it's also going to be tied into the advertising as well. So for the guys that are spending, thousands of dollars a month on advertising, this will tell you exactly where your jobs are coming from, if it's from Google Ads or, which ad it is. It's going to be very comprehensive. So that way, at this point, you don't know what all your money's really going to. You have an idea, but you're not exactly sure. Well, after this, what'll happen is you'll know exactly where you need to spend your money. You'll know exactly what keywords in Google Ads are producing the most amount of profit for you. And then that way, you just spend more money on that, so then you make even more money. So that's down the line. That'll be in the next few weeks to a few months. But in the meantime, this is a great help for people that just want to work less and still earn just as much, if not more money.